Hey guys, here's Windrunner Spire Beta. I'll show you the mobs, the bosses, what they do, and how you can succeed in pugs. This is one of the harder first pulls in Season 1 of Midnight. The Maguses will often channel Arcane Salvo. Basically, Arcane barrages your whole party every second during its 8-second cast. Pair that with the Steward's Soul Torment dot on multiple party members, and your entire group will be suffering massive rot damage. However, the dot is dispellable. Aside from that, Stewards will constantly cast Spirit Bolt, hitting for 30 to 40% of your HP, and the Groundskeepers also stack a Sheer Armor debuff on the tank, each stack reducing your armor by 1%. Around a minute into the fight, the Magus will cast a Protective Barrier at his location that you'll need to move the mobs out of to continue doing damage. Now you choose, go left wing or right wing. You'll have to do both anyway, so pick whichever you prefer. I like going right. You must watch out for the Dragonhawk's Fire Spit ability. It's a 9-second channeled spell that does massive damage to the group and can only be stopped, not interrupted. If you include the Creeping Spindleweb in this pull, its only ability is to spray poison. However, keep in mind that once these spiders die, they will leave acid puddles on the ground that you must move out of quickly. As you go to the lower level, you'll find the Scouting Trappers and the Apex Lynx. The Trappers throw ice traps on the ground, so be careful where you're walking. While the Lynx does a tank buster called Puncturing Bite, so watch your armor debuffs in this area. This will also leave an 8-second bleed on you. Occasionally, the Lynx will also target 3 people to jump at. Try not to group up too much, as it does have a small AoE hit. On the outside, you'll find these petty Lashlings that don't really do much. However, it pairs nicely with the Bloated Lasher that casts Spore Dispersal. It's a powerful AoE dot on the group, and it gives the Lashlings a buff for 8 seconds. It also fires Fungal Bolt, but that can be kicked easily. Now if you went this way first, you'll meet the first boss of the dungeon. Emberdawn casts Flaming Updraft on 2 people, giving them a dot for 6 seconds, at the end of which will form these fire patches on the ground. It's best to place them on the edges to leave the middle free. It will also use Searing Beak on the tank. It's a big hit that also leaves a dot. When its rage bar reaches 100, it goes into the Burning Gale phase. You receive party-wide dot damage for its duration, while also having to deal with these flaming twisters that appear from the ignited embers. They damage and stun whoever touches them. It also has a directional fire cone during this phase that does extra damage to whoever is caught in it, so make sure to run out when it faces you. The moment you get ported back to the start, don't get confused. The entrance of the dungeon is opposite to you, so in this case, we're heading to the left wing. The soldiers place a debuff on the tank called Precise Cut, reducing healing received by 10%. The cutthroats will attempt to put poison on their blades. You can just interrupt this. They will also randomly strike a player with Shadow Reave, which can hurt quite a bit. The Reaver here just tags along getting some pot shots in, while the apothecaries throw poison files on the ground, so just run out when you get targeted. The important mob here is the Woolbringer. She will cast Shadow Bolt that can be kicked, and her main ability is Pulsing Shriek, a channeled spell that pulses AoE damage for 16 seconds. DPS needs to focus her and break her shield in order to interrupt this cast. Going downstairs, the Flesh Behemoth here does a big hit to the tank that you should try to mitigate. He also casts Fetid Spew, which will hit 2 players for big AoE damage and give them an 8-second dot. It forms a poison pool below him, so stay away from him when he's casting. And after clearing the next room, you'll meet the second boss of the dungeon. Callus will frequently cast Shadow Bolt. It's unnecessary damage in an already chaotic fight, so make sure you kick it. Latch will then cast Splattering Spew on all players, which will form gunk splatter underneath their feet. These last for quite a while, so move to the edges when you get this so the middle remains clean. He then does Bone Hack on the tank. It hits 4 times in 3 seconds, and you need a defensive to mitigate it. Immediately after, Callus will use Curse of Darkness, summoning ghosts that fixate on 2 players. These ghosts should be CC'd as they only last for 12 seconds. The bosses will then start a combo. Latch targets someone with Heaving Yank, while Callus starts casting Debilitating Shriek. The player that gets targeted by the hook needs to move behind Callus in order for it to interrupt her, because otherwise, the party takes huge damage. Finally, if one of them dies, the other receives a stacking enrage, so make sure both dies around the same time. With these 2 wings down, your access to the final area opens up. Within it, you're going to meet these archers that will shoot randomly and cast arrow rain, which needs to be dodged. The soldiers we've already seen, and the phalanx breaker will charge at someone, so players need to move out of the way. It will also use interrupting screech that interrupts casters and does AoE damage. You'll also meet these marauders that use a whirlwind ability, just walk out of its range. The axe throwers will randomly shoot, which will also land a 5-second bleed on its target. The grunts will charge, and these wargs will also give a tank a 20-second bleed and a heal absorb. Just heal past the absorb to dispel the bleed. The phantasmal mystic you will have to watch out for. It will alternate between casting chain lightning, which can be interrupted, and flame nova, a large AoE that can't be kicked. He will also cast bloodlust on his friends, so prepare some defensives when that happens. Once you cleared up the mobs here, the third boss spawns. Kroluk starts with Rampage, which hits the tank 10 times in 5 seconds. Make sure you alternate cooldowns for this, as it happens about every 30 seconds. He will then use Reckless Leap, targeting 2 players and hitting in a wide AoE, doing considerable damage and leaving a dot for 12 seconds. It will also spawn shards of rock each time, so that needs to be dodged. Immediately after the second leap, he will cast Intimidating Shout that spawns circles on every player. You need to find another player to overlap the circle with before he finishes his cast, or else it will fear you and leave a large dot. At 66% and 33% HP, he will use Rallying Bellow. It does a large AoE hit and summons his minions. While they're alive, he will fixate a player and wind up for Blade Storm. Focus down the ads because the boss becomes practically immune during this phase. Then you just repeat until you kill him, making way for the last boss. She starts the encounter casting arrows down on the party and on the ground. Just dodge those for now. Notice also how she jumps before the cast. This is a Squall Leap ability that does AoE damage and leaves everyone with a stacking dot every time she does so. The abilities preceded by this jump will always stack this dot. Her main mechanic is Bullseye Wind Blast. She will jump away and start the cast, spawning a large circle that expands after she finishes casting. Players need to step on an arrow before the expanding circle reaches them, or else they will die. Now, the arrows do many things. They're your friends in this fight, so make sure not to accidentally use too many or steal someone else's arrow. They lob you up in the air to live the expanding wind mechanic, but they also clear any debuffs you may have, including the Squall dot. Once used up, the arrows will leave a pool on the ground that can be cleared up by her Gust Shot ability. Just make sure the players are spread out more so they cover most of the pools. The boss will also do her Tank Buster ability after every new round of arrows, called Tempest Slash. It pushes the tank backwards and leaves a debuff, increasing physical damage taken by 250%. Now, like I said earlier, the arrows can very easily clear this up. So, to make this very simple, the tank can stand in front of an arrow before she finishes her cast, thereby getting pushed into one and clearing up that debuff immediately. Her last ability targets a player with frontal attack. Whoever gets targeted should move to the edge to minimize its effects on the rest of the party. And that's all there is for Windrunner Spire Beta Edition. I hope you found this video informative, and I'll see you guys later.